The other half of one of those bowls over there, it's the camphor. I had 3 crotches. I made 6 bowls. This part right here is the center of the tree, and it had that little split in there, and the split didn't go away. It kind of grew a little split here, but what you want to do is when you feel underneath this, you're going to feel how this part actually comes up a little bit. It rises up, so you get a little void down in there. Now, that's just the way it came off the lathe. It's just been dried a little bit. This piece is wax myrtle. Now, we have a lot of wax myrtle that grows in our yard, and they live for a while and they die, and we cut them up, and sometimes they have little crotches. This was turned from the round. I didn't cut it in half. And what I want you to notice with this is these 3 little places where the pith grows through. Just feel them. There's going to be a little bump on the outside and a little indentation here. That's the way the wood dries. It just pushes out, okay? If you do a hollow form with the pith in and turn it thin, it's going to push out. Doesn't have to crack, but if you left that really thick, it would crack for sure, okay? So that's just turned from the rounds. On the 1/4 inch you can get away with for sure, probably. 1/2 inch, if the pith's there, it's really iffy. Depends on the wood. Depends on how dry it was when you started. If it was already cracked when you started, the crack's still going to be there. This I'm going to pass around. This is the other half of the piece that I turned, well, the other half of this, okay? It's live oak. I wasn't sure how it was going to do, so it turned it out okay. I probably shouldn't pass this around because right here we got a really bad turning, but the rest of it's pretty good. And this is what I hope to do tonight. You'll see on the bottom there's a little button, and if you're really watching closely, I took it out of a paper bag. This is about 1/4 inch thick, and one of the things I might mention, these crotch natural edge bowls, I very seldom leave the bark on because they're quite functional, many of them, and people won't use it for anything if you leave the bark on it. And you know, I have pretty good success with keeping the bark on. We might keep the bark on this oak tonight. I don't really care that it stays on there. In fact, it's more work to get the bark off most of the time, but if you leave the bark on there, it can't be a functional bowl because it's going to break off eventually. And you can see even on that one I'm passing around, the bark has shrunk more than the wood, so we got to do a heck of a lot of sanding to catch up. Now, if you want to leave the bark on and you really soak it with cyanoacrylate glue, that'll keep the bark from shrinking. And you want to keep that bark from shrinking, otherwise you've got too much sanding to do. Now, this I had put in a paper bag, and the reason I had done that is just to kind of slow the drying a little bit because it's been really dry air the last couple of days, you know, so. And this is the bowl. I cut this blank day before, 2 days ago, whenever I did that one, Tuesday. And I wrapped it to keep it from drying because if I just let it sit around, it's going to crack, and we don't want that to happen. Well, oh, before we go any further, I always forget to thank Jan and Carl for the video. And I know Rudy knows, and I know because we go to all the other clubs in Central Florida, and you guys don't know how lucky you are Okay. We have the best video crew that anywhere. Okay. So thank you. Now, what I'm going to do, and maybe it'll work here. This is just a piece of cherry. Everybody should turn one of these. I'm going to drive in a spur center, and the grain kind of runs this way, so I'm going to orient the points going that way. Now, the reason I didn't do it over here on this lathe is this is cast iron. You could probably bang on it 10,000 times, drop it off a 10-story building, it would break the concrete it fell on, and then some little kid's going to walk up with a toy hammer and do that, and it's going to crack. But that's cast iron. Usually it's cured in such a way that it won't crack, but you never know. Okay. I forgot to mention in the demo, but this live center has a removable point. So I've taken the point out, and all I'm using is the cup. What I want to be able to do, if the point on this center is about quarter of an inch in diameter, maybe a little less. If I use that point and I make a hole in the bottom of my bowl and I try to move it 1/16 of an inch, it's just going to go in that hole and move it right back. If I've got that cup, I can pretty much move it around any place I want to. Now, what I'm going to do first is take these 2 points, and I'm going to try to figure out, by using my thumb flat on a tool rest, okay, I'm checking right where the bark meets the wood. So I'm about less than a quarter inch this way on this one from here. So what I want to do is move this one that way. So I'm going to get them straight up and down. Loosen the tailstock, let it drop down a little bit, and check it. I moved it the wrong way. Okay, I can always move my thumb and make it look like they're level. Okay, those are good. So now we're going to check this against this one. Okay, so that's about an inch. That's a lot. We've got to move a lot. So we get these two guys kind of level, and we're going to push. I probably moved it that way a little bit. Okay, we're really pretty good. So what I'm going to do is tighten up this tailstock. Now what we've done is we've really gotten this off balance when we did that. So see if sometimes you might want to, if it's a really big piece of wood, get it move the tailstock back a little bit to get the tool rest in here. Oh, this right here? Okay, so I'm going to use a bevel riding push cut. I've got the tool rest set so my tool is level. I'm cutting right at center. I'm just going to cut a little bit off the corner. Get a little too far off the tool rest there. Something came loose here. It might be something. I don't think it is. Yeah, one of either the tailstock or the headstock was a little bit loose. Glenn, does this tighten by going down or up? Okay. What I'm trying to do is get up kind of close here a little bit. We're still pretty far away right here on. Now what I've done is I've shifted to a pull cut. Now I'm kind of pushing it, but it's called a pull cut because the handle's leading the cut. So the handle's pulling the tool through the cut, and we're letting that wing cut. And that cut will do a pretty good job of cutting the bark. Okay, this one's a little low, but we can fix that. See if we can do a little more. Now you saw me shift out because I was taking too much wood with that cut and it was going to bury the tool a little bit, so I just going to take that in a couple of, the tool rest is moving. Probably. I'm going to take the same tool, but a sharp one, and we'll make this cut right here. Yeah, the grinder's a little low for me down there, Carl. Now what we're going to do here is we're still not quite totally round there, but I'm going to balance this. We're close enough that we can balance it up. Those two are right in line. And this one is going to be... Okay, that one is... need to move about an inch. Now, I'm going to get these 2 points parallel to the floor if I can, and pull them back this way a little bit. Now, part of the topography here is this little one okay. We're pretty close. This is a little high now, but I think we'll just probably live with this. We'll turn the speed down. And we'll try that little... Now I have the tool handle into my top of my leg, so it's... And I'm just kind of shifting all my weight from my right foot to my left as we come up here to cut this curve. And the tool rest has dropped down a little bit. Okay, at this point, I'm kind of satisfied with where the rim is. So what I'm going to do is, see, I didn't turn in here anywhere, because I don't know until I get right here where I'm going to have to move that tail center around, okay? So I kind of leave about a 3-inch space down here. So I'm going to now go ahead and true this up for the tenon, and then we'll refine the curve. Is this light going to bother you guys? Not going to bother me either. Okay. No, it's okay. It's more fun to turn in the dark. Well, I didn't until it got dark over here. What we're doing is kind of sneaking in here to a place where we can put the chuck. Now, what I want to do is have this tenon be 2.5 inches or so. So we're a little under an inch there. That's about 5/8 of an inch, so we're close to 2.5 inches. That tool, I just put it in that handle and I didn't glue it in, which I don't usually do, and it turned a little bit in the handle. This is just the Ellsworth grind, and that's a good question. The bevel right here is about 55 degrees. The bevel right there is about 40 degrees. The bevel right here is about 25, 30 degrees. So the tool's really sharper here. I mean, that's almost a skew angle when you get down to 25 degrees. And when you cut like this, it looks a whole lot like a skew coming this way with the point down. But that's about the cleanest cut you can get with a gouge. And what I've found is most of the time that cut has not torn the bark very much. I mean, right here there's a little bit of tornness there. I'm still going to have to work this tenon a little bit. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and cut this tenon, and I'm going to be using a dovetail jaw. So I want to cut a dovetail. And then I want to take this down just a little bit so we can come into that tenon and finish the bottom without it being too flat. I don't know if we're tearing that wood. Just those little knots there. Now, one thing I'm going to do with this tool is come in right here. It's probably, with the curve I've got, it's not too important, but I want to undercut. This is kind of a false tenon. It's where the top of my jaws are going to rest. But I want to undercut that just a little bit to make a notch so my eyes can follow the curve down in here. On this one, it doesn't make much sense because it's pretty flat. Flat's flat. So, but otherwise, I won't be able to see the curve ending in there. So now, we're half done with this side. I've been ambushed. We're okay. Excuse me. I broke my left wrist in high school, and I can't do that. I did. Round on the bottom would probably be better, wouldn't it? Actually, on these bowls, I generally make the bottoms fairly flat because that feather is flat. And if you bring the curve too fast, you lose most of the feather. And if you turn over every one of those bowls, the prettiest feather's on the outside because it's bigger, it's closer to the center of the tree. But that's just the way it is. Now, I'm going to do something here that's the tailstock further back again. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is cut a little bit of wood out of the interior here. And the reason for that is I'm going to come back and finish the outside. If there's a lot of tension, and I cut through here, any one of these wings may move in or out because of the change in the tension. If they move before I finish the outside, we'll be better off. So I'm going to cut that tension first. Uh, 1052. I'm just going till it doesn't rattle too much. If it's rattling, I go slower. If I think I can go faster, we go faster. Also, the other thing this does, on a lot of crotches, the wood here is really uneven, okay? We'll take a little more out. Okay, so now hopefully if there was some tension in there, it's released it a little bit. Now I'll come out here and do that pull cut, pushing, and this is just going to clean up this outside. And when we put it in the chuck, it may not be perfectly centered. So now we'll just true the outside to that center. That's the same pulling cut again. Try one more cut with a sharp tool. And then we'll do a little shear scrape here. What I'm doing is both wings almost touch the wood. I'm cutting on the lower wing, and the wing's going straight in to the wood. So we're just doing a real scraping action. And you can see we're just getting little fuzzes. And that's kind of the whole thing we've been doing here. We've been starting off with big chips. Then we go into smaller chips and real little chips. And then if we go to sandpaper, we make even smaller chips. And that's the whole idea of getting a good surface, is going from taking off little bits of wood at the end. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and I've got it's not too bad, but a little bit of tool marks here. I'm not going to shear scrape up there because I'll probably make it worse rather than better. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start cutting the wall thickness. Now, what I'm going to do here is use the flute straight up, and this is a really advanced cut that you really need somebody to show you how to do it. Rudy and Don are real good at this cut, and they'd be glad to show you. Okay, so I'm looking to see, getting a little thicker right here. So I'm going to start just above this little indentation and cut here. Now, one of the nice things about this cut, that's my finished side. Here I turn it over, cutting on the other side, so when I get this waste wood out of the way, I'm not using the finished side of my tool. Then I'll come back, the finished side will still be sharp. And that's a bevel riding push cut, and you can actually do the whole bowl with that cut. You just have to do a little more sanding. And let's see what we did here. I don't think it did anything. So right here, we're just wasting wood away. Getting a little thicker there. Now we'll use calipers, and what I'm going to do here is open them up, and I just put my finger under there, and as I slide them down, I feel how much my finger gets pinched. If it's about the same, then we've got about the same amount of wood, so that's looking good. Well, I don't know that there is an ideal thickness. I think for kind of what I do is the smaller it is, the thinner it is. This one, I'm probably got 3/8, no, quarter, yeah, 3/8 of an inch at least on this one, maybe. I don't think it's a half. And this is a little thicker. Yeah, it's a little less than 3/8. That must be the ideal, or I wouldn't have done it that way. Okay, we were a little far over the tool rest right there. I'm going to check and see how we're doing on. I think it's thick, but sometimes it's a little thick. Sometimes you don't want to think it's too thick when it's too thin, and sometimes I do that. So we want to see if it's getting, yeah, it's thicker, so right there. See, I've always got a line to work from. See this hard line? When I turn lathe, I can see that line and come back that far and start turning. Now I'll get rid of some more of this wood. Just going to double check, make sure the chuck's still tight. Okay, so right here, we're pretty flat, so we can just pretty much go straight across that bottom and have it where we want it. This tool right here, I'm switching to it, and if you can see, what I've done is I've ground the heel off. That shortens this bevel right here, the length of it. And when I'm way over the tool rest, there's not as much bevel drag. That wood coming past the bevel is going to want to pull the, create a little friction. And this will just create less friction. Okay, so we got a little bump there. I want to get rid of that. Okay, so we cleaned that up. And each time I was taking lighter cuts. Now, every time you move the tool rest, and check the height. Okay, now we're going to just get rid of this wood, and we want to make sure that that bowl goes around 4 times, because these wings can hit the underside of here, they can hit here, they can hit here. You know, you never, so you always make sure it'll go around at least a full rotation. And this is just a fun little cut. You just kind of grab that little cone in the flute, pull the tool back a little bit, and just go right down there. It's just so fun. Now we should be able to get the tool rest down in there a little closer. Now another thing that can happen when you turn the lathe on, even though it went around, if it's, this is pretty thick, but sometimes these things flex a little bit, and you'll turn it on and you'll hear tick, tick, turn it off right away. Okay, and to move the tool rest a little bit. You want to be as close as you can be without it making noise. And then you know, right here is what I'm pretty close to that thing, so I'll make sure my arm's on this side of the tool rest. Now, we don't want to dig a hole down there in the bottom. A little bump starting right out here. I've got is a little bit of resin building up on my tool. Tool's still sharp, but it's causing the tool to drag and bounce a little bit. This one might not be sharp, but I got a little, I think we're okay, Carl, thanks. Okay, we're going to call that done. Okay, so now we've got the inside done pretty much. And what I'm going to do is turn around and take off the bottom. But before I do that, I want to know how thick it is. So I'm going to use these magic calipers. Okay, so it's 3/4 of an inch thick maybe, okay. And these, okay. Now, these are my brand new calipers that I got at the excuse me, at the woodworking show. What you do is you buy the cheapest ones you can get, because after you own these a year, you can't read the numbers. I don't care about the numbers. All I care about is this part sticks out that far. And when I hold it up here, as long as I can see some space between here and here, that's how thick my bottom of my bowl is, okay? So I just compare that to the wood right under the tail center. And I'm looking for this, my paper towel. Next time I'll have to look on the floor. That's why you left me that, Art. You weren't sure I had my blue one. Now, I'm going to be doing what I'm doing. This is a wooden piece, and it's still running pretty true. Sometimes it does, and I might have to clean it up with the gouge. Now, what you want on this jam chuck is you want the edges to be kind of rounded. If you have a sharp edge there, and you put this soft oak up against it, it's going to make a mark. No, if you had softwood, it'd make a mark. The oak's going to break the corner off. Okay. Yep. And I put it right back in the last place it was. And I put the piece on the cup center and tightened it into the wood. Okay. So, I want to turn this bottom away and true it up as best we can. Speaking of bottoms, is Art still here? Tomorrow night, Art's showing everybody his bottom at the Polk County Wood Turner. So if you want to learn about the bottoms of his bowls, go on over to Polk County and watch Art. Whoa! And always turn the lathe speed down so you don't be making fun of. I think part of the bark just came off. It hit me in the... Now I usually do this at a little bit lower speed than I've been turning on the other side. Now I'm just going to check. Okay, still got a lot of wood in the bottom. In fact, the bottom's going to be a little thicker than it needs to be, I think. what I'm going to see, I may be able to blend that in. I think not. Getting a little too much bounce out here. What's happened is the wood has been drying and moving a little bit. And what I've done is I blended it in over here really well, but over here we got a little bit of stuff. If I keep working here, what I'm going to do is I'll get it okay over here, but we'll have a hole over here. So we'll just leave that for the sanding. I'll take this down a little bit more. Now I usually like to use a small tool rest here, because out here, and this isn't a small piece, it's kind of inconsequential. About here you got a lot of vibration, okay? Here you don't have much vibration. So if we have a short 4-inch tool rest, we can get it in there and have, you don't want to work out here unless you have to. This is a spindle gouge, the same one I used to cut the tenon. What I don't want to do is get down in here and have this tool run under the tenon. I had my tool rest a little too low. Now this little tenon isn't very strong, so you don't want to put much pressure on it. Now we get it down about there, we can take the last couple of cuts with the lathe not running. Okay, I just leave that little piece for sanding. It's just not worth it to try and, can turn it off, and I do sometimes, but that'll sand off really quickly. This little piece you give to Don Watson, and Don will put it in his pocket. Those are actually one of the most dangerous things in a shop. That one, probably not too bad because it's not big, but you get one about this big around and that long, put on a shop, and you hit it with your heel, you'll be looking at the ceiling for just a moment before you black out, okay? Well, that's, now what I would do is probably take the bark off and finish it. You could leave the bark. If you want to leave the bark, what I would do is take the thin CA and use gravity, hold the bowl up, put the thin CA on the part of the bark that's down, and then keep rotating it around and saturate that bark right where it touches the wood. Okay, right at that cambium layer. Get the bark soaked up with CA so when it won't shrink and it'll stick to the wood. Any questions? Yes, Art. Yeah, if you have one of these you use in the same configuration all the time, the leather works great. The problem with dragging the leather around here if this wasn't running true, I've got to cut the leather off to true it up. Oh, a loose piece. Instead of, that would work fine. Yeah. Well, yes? Gene has a question. You don't like this thing because you don't have any danger anymore. You know, probably that screen would work better, Rudy.
Is that practice wood, or do you keep it from, how do you keep it from checking and cracking?
How do I keep it from checking and cracking? Okay, the one I just did, I'll put it in this paper bag, and I'm going to fold the top of the bag over. And tomorrow, I'm going to take it out and put it in another bag, and the day after that, I'm going to put it on a shelf, and it won't crack.